What's going on, guys? John Elder here from Codemy.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to build this cool Wikipedia search tool with Tkinter and Python. Alright guys, like I said, in this video, we're going to build this cool Wikipedia search tool. But before we get started, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com, where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos that teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. That's all my courses, videos, and books for one-time fee at just $49, which is insanely cheap. Okay, like I said, in this video, we're going to build this little search tool, and this will just search Wikipedia for certain things and then put them up on the screen. We see we've got a text box with all this stuff. We can scroll both ways. And, we could type something else. War, look up, boom. A war is an intense armed conflict and blah, blah, blah. And you can see, and it's kind of cool. So I've got a file called wiki1.py. I'm using the Sublime Text Editor and the Git Bash terminal as always. And you can always find the code for these videos in the pinned comment section below, as well as a link to the Tkinter playlist with almost 200 other Tkinter videos. So check that out if you haven't already. So we've got our basic Tkinter starter code that we always have. And the first thing we need to do is install the Wikipedia API library. So we need to do that from the command terminal. So we just come down here and go pip install Wikipedia. I've already done this, so it's already installed it on mine, but it'll go through and install it on yours. It just takes a second. And that's all there is to it. If you want to learn about this library, you can head over to Google and type in Wikipedia Python API, something like that. Yeah, here it is at PyPy. You can read all about it. And there's not a whole lot of documentation, so you can read really quickly all the things to do. And it's pretty easy. So to use this thing, we need to import it. So let's go import Wikipedia. And let's import this as wiki. And you'll see why we want to do that in just a second. Okay, so let's start to build this thing out. And I want to put this in a label frame. So I'm going to call this my label frame. And this is going to be a label frame. We want to put it in root. And we want the text to equal search Wikipedia. And then let's my underscore label frame dot pack this guy and give it a pad Y of 20. Just push it down the screen a little bit. Now let's create our entry box. And I'm going to call this my underscore entry. And this is going to be an entry box. We want to put it in my label frame. And let's give this a font of Helvetica. And let's make this a little bit bigger, say size 18. And let's give this whole box a width of like 47 to sort of stretch it out. And then let's my underscore entry dot pack this guy. And let's give this a pad Y of 20 and a pad X of 20 to sort of give it some space inside of this label. So, okay. So now let's create Textbox. And before you do that, let's create a frame because we want to put a scroll bar on this, and we could put a scroll bar on our text box, but it's just easier to add a scroll bar to a frame. So I'm just going to create a text box frame. And let's just call this my frame. And it's going to be a frame. We want to put it in root. And then let's go my underscore frame dot packed, put this on the screen. And let's give this a pad Y of like 5 to push it down just a little bit from our entry box up here. So, okay, now let's create our text box. And I'm going to call this my underscore text. This is going to be a text box. We want to put it in my underscore frame, right? And we want to give this a scroll bar. So let's go Y scroll command equals, and let's call this text underscore scroll dot set. And we'll create that in just a second. We want to go wrap equals none. And we also want an X scroll command. And let's set that equal to or underscore scroll dot set, and we'll create that in just a second as well. So we want to create two scroll bars, a horizontal scroll bar and a vertical scroll bar we call text scroll. And if you're not familiar with scroll bars, I've got lots of videos on them. Check the playlist, link in the comment section below to learn all about those, but they're pretty basic. Now we just want to go my underscore text dot pack. We don't need to give this a pad Y at all because the frame has already got a pad Y. Okay, let's create a vertical scroll bar. And this is called text underscore scroll. And this is a scroll bar. And we want to put this in my frame, right? Now we can go text underscore scroll dot pack. We want to give this a side equals right. We want it on the right-hand side of our frame. And we want to give this a fill equals Y. We want to go up and down, right? So basic scroll bar. So this text scroll corresponds to this Y scroll command right here that we set, right? Okay, so now let's create horizontal scroll bar. And we call this hor_scroll. And it's a scroll bar. We want to put it in my frame. Same as here. But this one, we want to give an orient of horizontal. We don't have to give this one an orient of vertical because vertical is the default. But we want to change this one to go side to side. So we give it an orient of horizontal. And then let's hor_scroll.pack. And we want to give this a side equals to bottom and a fill equals X. Okay, so that's looking good. Now we also have these two scroll bars, so we need to configure them. So let's come down here and configure scroll bars. And let's go text_scroll.config. And let's go command equals my_text.yview. And let me just copy this. And this is going to be horscroll. And this will be my_text.xview. Okay, so I went through this very, very quickly, but these are all things we've worked on many times in past videos. So if you need more sort of in-depth understanding of them, check the playlist for specific videos on scroll bars, on text boxes, on entry boxes, all that good stuff. So, okay, let's go ahead and save this and run it just to make sure this is working. So let's head over here and go python wiki1.py. And when we do, we see, okay, this is looking pretty good. We've got our entry box up here. We've got our text box here. Let's test this scroll bar out. And that seems to work. So we can scroll and that works. Let's go side to side. Okay, so we get this thing. That seems to work. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so now we need some buttons. So let's head back over here and let's go buttons. And we probably need 2 buttons. And I want to put them side by side, so let's put them in a frame. So let's go button frame. And so let's just call this button_frame. And this is going to be a frame. We want to put it in root. And then let's go button_frame.pack. And let's give this a pad Y of like 10 to push it down the screen a little bit. Now let's create our buttons. We need 2 buttons. And so let's call this one, what? Search_button. And that's going to be a button. We want to put it in button frame. We want the text to equal like lookup or something like that. Let's give this a font of Helvetica. And let's make this really big. So let's go 32. And let's also give this a foreground color of sort of a dark gray color. So I'm going to go like 3A, 3A, 3A. And we also want to give this a command of search. So we'll create this function in just a second. So, okay, so let's go search_button.grid. We can do that because we're inside this frame, right? So let's go row equals 0, column equals 0. And let's also give this a pad X of like 20 or so to separate it from the other button. So, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And let's create another one. And let's call this one clear button. We want to clear the screen. And instead of column 0, we'll go column 1. We don't need to give it extra padding. This padding right here will cover it. And instead of it saying lookup, let's have it say clear. And instead of calling a command of search, let's call a command of clear. So, all right, let's create this clear function first because it's going to be the easiest one. So let's come up here somewhere and let's go clear. And so let's define clear. And so we want to clear 2 things, our entry box and our text field. So our entry box is my_entry. And then we can say .delete from 0 to end. And our text box is my_text. And we can say delete on there from 0.0 to end. Remember, that's how we delete stuff in a text box. Okay, so let's also now search. And so let's go define. And what did we call this guy again? Search, right? Okay, so define search And I just want to pass for now. Let's save this and run it just to make sure this thing is working. So head back over here, Python wiki1.py. So if we type some stuff here and some stuff here and click clear, boom, it disappears. Okay, so far so good. Lookup doesn't work yet. So now how do we look up stuff using this Wikipedia API? Well, we can head back over here real quickly and look, and you can see there's several different methods. You can just search, and that will return several things, right? You could search for a page, like for instance, New York, and then it will return the title, the URL, or the content, right? And also any links. So that's interesting. You can just search for a summary, and then you can name how many sentences you want. So that's sort of interesting. Let's start by looking up a page. So we set a variable and then call it the page and then pass whatever we want to search for. So, okay, we can do that. Let's head back over here and let's create a variable called data because we're going to go get data from Wikipedia. Call it whatever you want. Now we want to call wiki.page. And then now you'll notice the documentation says to call wikipedia.page. But when we imported this thing, we imported it as wiki. So instead of typing Wikipedia, all we have to do is type wiki. We could have done WK, and then this would have been WK.page, right? But wiki is, I think, good enough. Okay, so .page. Now, what do we want to search? Well, we want to search whatever's in my entry. So let's go my entry.get, and we can get that. Okay, now let's clear the screen. So let's just call clear. We can call this clear function, and it will delete everything for us, right? Because if we search more than one thing, we don't want it to add the thing to the screen without clearing the screen first, right? Our text box. So, okay, the stuff has been cleared. Now let's output Wikipedia results to Textbox. So we could go my_text.insert. Where do we want to insert this? At 0.0, the very first position in the box. What do we want to insert? Well, data to start with, just to see what is returning. Now this is going to return an object. So we're going to have to do something, but let's look at it first. So let's run this and see. So, okay, we can pull this over. Let's search for war, look up. It's going to return this object, Wikipedia page of war, which is not what we want to see, right? So let's clear this or just close it. What we actually want is the data.content, right? That will return the actual content. So let's save this and run it again. So now we see we can search for war, we can look up, and we get the content. Very, very cool. Now, if we want to search something else, Amazon.com, click look up, it deletes what's there, deletes what's in the entry box, and it puts the thing. So if we head back over to the documentation, we can see there's some other things we can do here. So we just went and grabbed a page. But you could also do .search and it will return certain things. You could also do .summary. So let's check this out and see what that's all about. Head back over here. And instead of wiki.page, we want wiki.summary. And then down here, instead of .content, I think we just want to return data. So let's go ahead and save this and give this a run. And so now if we type in, for instance, war, we want to look this up, we get just a snippet of a summary. And if we kind of look to the end of this here, we see economic or ecological circumstances. So we can change the length of the result. So if we head back over to the documentation, we can see if we look through here, we can offer a sentences flag on here. So let's just grab this, head back over here, and for wiki.summary, we would just boom, boom. So instead of this, let's say 10 sentences, whatever. Put anything you want. So come back over here. Let's break out of here and run this guy again. And once again, let's search for war. We want to look up war. And now you can see we're obviously getting a much larger result. See at the end of here, it's still sort of, ends on economic or ecological circumstances there, but the rest of this is obviously a lot more. So you have some flexibility there. Play around with that. What else is there? Let's see. We can do just a regular search. We could go back here and let's do page again. So let's get rid of this and instead go page. But we can now, if we look through here, also call the title, the URL, or the content or links if there are any, right? You could also change the language if you want, but I'm going to leave that alone because I don't really want to change the language. So let's, I don't know, grab the title. So back here in our code, instead of returning data.content, we would return data.title. So if we save this and head back over here and run this guy again, and let's search, I don't know, Amazon.com. We're going to look up, and it returns just the title, Amazon company, right? So you can play around with that a little bit if you want. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to content. And very cool. So one thing I will kind of stress, this is not a very robust API, right? There's rate limits. You can't make too many searches before it cuts you off and says that's too many. If you're going to be using this for sort of heavy duty industrial use, this won't work. This is just a fun little tool we're building, you know, just to have some fun and try something new. And the documentation sort of bears that out. Say down here it says, note, this library was designed for ease of use and simplicity, not for advanced use. So if you're just building a simple little app like this where you need to look up a few things every now and then, no big deal. If you're going to be like putting this on a loop and scraping tons of data, you do not want to do that. If you plan on doing serious scraping or automated requests, please use the Wikipedia bot, one of the other more advanced, or one of the other more advanced Python MediaWiki API wrappers. And you can pull up both of these and look at them if you want. We're not going to go through them in this video. But if you want to use these things, you can sort of play around with them and see for more advanced use. You'll likely have to sign up for an API key or something, I would imagine, so they can keep track of exactly what you're doing and cut you off if you start doing weird things. But that's sort of how that goes. You see there's some other documentation. This thing is built with, it wraps the MediaWiki API. So if you want to learn more about this, you can look at the MediaWiki API. I think that's maybe what this documentation is down here. Where did it go? Right there, maybe. Let's take a look here. I can look at the quick start guide. And this is sort of useful because we didn't really talk about errors and exceptions, but you can come down here and read about errors and exceptions. If you search for something that doesn't exist or some other errors you might get, you can read in here how to try and except loop. I'll leave that to you. It's pretty straightforward. I changed the language. We kind of looked at that, how to do this donate thing. Fun and very cool. So that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and check out Codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off memberships. It pays just $49 to access all my courses, over 47 courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDFs of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 100,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com, and I'll see you in the next video.